Pete Fiutak, welcome back to the game. I hope you're doing well, man.
Can I just say, in this whole Alabama world, I've always liked Alabama fans. I've always thought the whole Alabama thing is cool from a standpoint of just watching greatness happen. I enjoy watching the Golden State Warriors. I enjoy watching Tiger Woods when he was on. And so I can appreciate that. The one thing I can't get over, I'm so sick of Sweet Home Alabama. I know you have to play it. I know it's part of your thing, but aren't you sick of that song yet?
No, never. Because
how? I live in Chicago, and I don't have to hear the Blues Brothers or Sweet Home Chicago ever again.
Yeah, but we do the Roll Tide roll during certain parts of it. No, we love Sweet Home Alabama. Why not? I mean, you're a hater, I guess, right? I mean, is that what it is?
No, just because it's a fine song, but all right. I mean, we got it. You don't have to hear it again. What happened. It's an okay song. But just, again, I'm all for all things Alabama, but for whatever reason, that song is all right. It's an all right song, but I'll just stop there before more people get mad at me.
Yeah, you're digging a hole, man. I mean, I think you're going to find that most people in Tuscaloosa love Sweet Home Alabama. I mean, it probably reminds a lot of teams of a lot of bad things that happen. I mean, think about if you're an opposing fan and you watch Sweet Home Alabama, you hear Sweet Home Alabama, it takes you back to getting whipped 66-0. I mean, it hurts. It stings. So
I guess, yeah. You don't want to. I guess that does. I will admit, I do have a hatred for certain fight songs that get played over and over again. Like every time Michigan gets a first down, and you hear the victors or Florida State with the war chant or something. It's just a little bit of an overkill. But that's neither here nor there.
All right, so let's go to Alabama. Coach Stallings hit me with a trick question a few hours ago, and he said, "What's Alabama's most difficult opponent in 2018?" Pete, you know that schedule. Who would you say right now in the regular season schedule is the hardest opponent on Alabama's schedule right now?
Probably Auburn, but that's on the road, or that's home. So, LSU is always dangerous, but you look at that schedule, and there's just nothing there that says that they're, it's a sure thing loss. Now, it doesn't mean it can't happen. And we every year it seems like we talk about this, and every year, obviously Alabama meets and exceeds expectations. It just takes that one extra loss. And that's really been the greatness of Alabama, is you haven't had that 2-loss season. We can argue all we want about how, even though they won the national championship on a deserve factor, you don't win your division, you don't deserve to play for the playoff. But if they had lost 2 games, they're not in last year, and it's going to be hard to get in ever with 2. And Alabama just doesn't do that. So it's fine. They can lose a game, and we know it's going to be just fine. So it's not even the question, if I can change it, is not even, okay, what's the hardest team on the schedule? Where's that second loss potentially going to come from? Because Alabama could lose a game. It always happens the wrong way.
Even with this easy schedule?
Yeah, sure, but where's the number 2? I mean, of course. I mean, there's always that day where, you have the hot quarterback on the right day where, Ole Miss has been able to do it a couple times, obviously, and you had the Johnny Manziel moment, and last year it was Auburn. So, remember, as better than anybody else, Saban's only gotten through one of these things unscathed once. They've been hit with a loss every other year. So but it's fine. You can lose a game, and it doesn't matter. You can't lose that second one, and that's the only real concern.
In the spirit of college football gambling that's going to be happening close to our state very, very soon, they're saying in Tunica, Mississippi, by July, that you're going to be able to go there and you're going to be able to place a bet. The odds right now out in Las Vegas has Alabama over under 10.5 or 11, depends on which sports book that you look at, and hopefully we'll have some kind of consensus that people will tie to. But 10.5, 11, would you go over?
Oh God, if you can get 10.5, that's mortgage time. Obviously, I mean they don't lose. I mean, when was the last time Alabama has lost 2 games in a regular season? It doesn't happen. So. Yeah, obviously, you absolutely. If you can get 10.5, I've seen it always at 11. I've even seen 11.5. I don't think you're going to get a 10.5 in too many places. But if that's on the table, you run that up to the window because, again, with this schedule and this team, Alabama might lose a game. They're not going to lose 2. So that's it. That's what you want. Of course, you go over on 10.5. 11, all right, just for fun. Of course, you bet it because you're Alabama. You're Alabama fans. But 10.5, absolutely jump all over it.
And Pete, that really brings up a really good question. Is these sports books throughout the country, are they going to have their own odds? Or are they going to depend on somebody like William Hill just to get their lines? Because, geographically, if think about the goal of a bookie, they want even money on both sides, right? And they get juice.
Of course.
Okay. But geographically, like if you went to a local, bookie here in Tuscaloosa, you're going to get Alabama at a worse number than you would in another state. Because of the number that that they're overloaded on Alabama. I'll take Alabama versus Jesus and the 12 disciples.
Yeah,
right?
and it's going to adjust because if you get everyone let's say you find a 10.5 line on Alabama, the world's going to jump all over that, and then it'll readjust and go up to 11. So it's just a market correction. But to your point, what's going to be interesting about this on a nationwide scale is, like you said, how are different places going to compete? And that's sort of, one of the things why Vegas isn't really all that worried and why, the online world is going to be interesting because it's not just about who's going to have the better lines. It's going to be, who takes the most juice. And so, for example, the NBA is going to get on this and they're going to have, kiosks at the NBA stadium where you can place bets and things. But you might have to give up more to place that bet and give up more to place to do it than you would at some of these other places. So it's going to be interesting to see how competitive this is. But everyone's going to get in on this fast, and everyone's going to be in a race to see who can just get the most money out of it. And it's going to be a treasure bath for all of us in the media, I hope.
Is this going to be, because I saw earlier this week, the state of Delaware is going to implement, but then now they're getting a lot of pushback from these sports leagues that they can't use their name or whatever. Is this going to be a legal battle in allowing, do they have a fight? They have a leg to stand on, I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, it's going to get sticky before it gets easy because at some point they're going to have to figure out a way to do this on a national basis. Because, on the first day, I think the stat was something like the state of Delaware made like $350 million on the first day. So there's so much money there to be made that all these states are going to want it. And basically the sports leagues just are going to do whatever they can until they figure it all out. The NCAA in college football is going to be a different animal. College basketball, I think we're going to get through the college football season without this being too big a thing quite yet. Come March Madness, that's going to be when the world jumps all over this. And I think by then we'll have something figured out. But the NCAA, they might not have too big a leg to stand on here. But the other sports leagues, they're going to make it a little interesting, a little bit difficult. But all they want at the end of the day is a piece of the pie. So what they're going to want is they're going to say, okay, look, you Delaware and Mississippi and other places, you can do this, but we need our cut. And I think there's going to be so much money there. I think the state's going to be like, fine, here, take your 10 to 15%, go for it, and we'll just keep printing money here.
As you continue to walk through the college football previews, collegefootballnews.com, we're talking to Pete Fiutak, National College Football Analyst. Clemson was something that you released a couple of hours ago, previewing the 2018 Clemson. They've got an easier schedule probably than even Alabama. This team probably going to go undefeated according to you?
You'd think on paper, yeah, of course. The problem becomes that it seems like it. You look at the schedule, like you look at Alabama's schedule, and say, yeah, no way. They're going to be favored in every single game by double digits. And then they lose to, Pitt, like they did a couple of years ago. And then they lose to Syracuse like they did last year. Every team, no matter how good, it's so hard to go undefeated. It just is, especially if you're a Power 5 school, to rip through that. And they should, right now, Clemson and Alabama are like head and shoulders better than everyone else. And then there's Georgia and Wisconsin kind of in the same boat. And then after that, it's just everyone else. Ohio State maybe throwing that mix too. But it's going to be hard for them to do it. But again, all you got to do is, don't lose twice. That's what we've learned from this whole thing. And if you're Clemson or Alabama, at this point, you're so talented and so good, and you're going to get so much credit. You could have exactly what happened last year, where you could have the College Football Playoff Committee said, you know what, Alabama, they played just okay last season. They didn't play that great a schedule. They certainly didn't really earn much of anything. But you know what? We think they're probably one of the four best teams in the country. And boom, obviously, let's put them in. And they took that and ran, and everything worked, and they end up winning the national championship. So if you're Clemson or Alabama, you can afford a loss. Again, you just can't afford two.
Yeah, but how much of that is you just trust Nick Saban's team? You just trust Nick Saban that he's not going to lay an egg like Urban Meyer did?
Well, laying an egg is kind of a hard way to put it. That's in every team, and that's that's hard. I mean, Oklahoma turned out to be awfully good, so there's that one. The Iowa game was just one of those aberrations, and that's again the genius of what's happened with Alabama is you haven't had those. You haven't had that real clunker game that just the team just didn't have it that day for whatever reason, and I'd argue that that's the flaw in the system. Is that just because Ohio State had a horrific day against Iowa, they still beat an unbeaten Wisconsin, they still won the Big Ten championship, and they still probably should have been in. And yet at the same time, the flaw in the system was, had Wisconsin gone and scored on that last drive of the Big Ten championship game, Alabama's not in the college football playoff last year, and the team who ends up winning it all would have obviously been out. So that's not right. So we're still basing this thing on judging, which I still think is the problem in all this. My argument continues to be win your conference championship and you're in. But until you get to then, we're still based on perception. And the good part about that, if you're an Alabama or a Clemson fan right now, is you're going to the season ranked 1 or 2, and everyone's gonna believe you're the best team no matter what.
We're talking to Pete Fiutak, collegefootballnews.com. So you got Alabama and Clemson. If I'm asking you your college football playoff teams that you think will be in this conversation, give me a few more teams that you think will be there at the end standing.
The Big Ten champion, whoever that is. I do think this is the year that you're going to have a 2-loss team get in at some point. Wisconsin's better than they were last year. This offense, you talk about Clemson's defensive line, their offense gets everyone back. That's an NFL offensive line. They actually have receivers now. Jonathan Taylor's back. The defense is good. The problem is the schedule is a whole lot tougher. They got to play some of those big boys from the Big Ten East, and Ohio State just reloads again. So whoever comes out of the Big Ten, I think, is going to get in. Washington's the other team, and that's good. That's really going to come down to that opener. If Washington can beat Auburn, that's going to be one of those tone-setting moments that says, okay, the Pac-12 is something worth watching this year, because that's another really good Husky team. Problem is, under Chris Peterson this last 2 years, they haven't really beaten anybody who's all that great. So that Auburn game is going to be a real big key for them. And then, of course, Oklahoma is still Oklahoma. They lose Baker Mayfield. The rest of the team's absolutely loaded. And the Big 12 doesn't have an Oklahoma State of last year, even a TCU. It's an okay Big 12, but West Virginia might be their second best team. So that's a league that's just ripe to get ripped through. So same players as before. I don't think there's going to be any major curveballs thrown out there. It doesn't seem like there's one team that could like an Iowa of a couple of years ago, where had they beaten Michigan State, they're in. But I think you're going to see another year of big boys. And you know what? As much as I love parity, if we were at the end of the rainbow and we have a Final Four of Alabama, Clemson, let's say, Oklahoma and Georgia, or Washington, that's not too bad.
Going back, let me spend a little time here in the Pac-12. We haven't really talked a lot about Chip Kelly. You think he's going to be pretty good at UCLA? I mean, do you think he can have a chance to do something there?
At the very what's interesting about all these big coaching hires is it's all you can do if you're one of these schools is you got it right. At least you can't fault UCLA. Chip Kelly's the best, the biggest name out there. Everyone wanted him. He went to the right place at the right time. If it doesn't work, that's not on UCLA because they got the guy. And so it will work eventually. He doesn't have the pieces there to do what he wants to do yet. And this spring, they certainly did not go at warp speed like you'd think they would. Now you have Wilton Speight, who might be their starting quarterback from Michigan, who's the absolute antithesis to everything Oregon had ever done in terms of running the high octane spread, warp speed attack. Eventually it'll be good, but he needs the players to get there first.
Pete Fiutak, collegefootballnews.com, collegefootballnews.com. Hey, Pete, I appreciate you coming on, even though you slammed our Leonard Skinner, Sweet Home Alabama. Man.
Oh, you know what's worse, by the way, as we bring up West Virginia, is whenever they play that John Denver song with Everything West Virginia. That's actually a worse song. So there are worse cases than just than Sweet Home Alabama.
Yeah, but and there's no reason for you to do it here lately. But have you ever been to a Tennessee game?
That's one of the things I've missed. I have never been. I know Rocky Top is just annoying.
Yeah, well, but it's they're not relevant. So I mean, it's not right now. You'd even want an excuse to go. It'd be more like punishment to go watch a Tennessee game. But if that's
the one thing I've learned doing this as long as I have is that everybody's fight song or little hand gesture or little tradition is really awesome to them and really ridiculous to everyone else.
Well, it's the only song they know.
Cool, but yeah.
I mean, at least Alabama, like we got Dixieland. Well, no, we don't have Dixieland Delight. They took it away from us. But they play Rocky Top like every first down. It's like, hey, Rocky Top, you ever be?
It's all bad. I'm cool with it because there's a fine line between cool college football tradition and just flat out annoying. And it is annoying when you're trying to watch a game and you're rooting against the other team and that you're hearing that blare all the time. Yeah.
You may have given us a show. We may do this.
Hope so.
No. Think about this. I mean, we might do like favorite fight songs outside of Alabama. Man, it sounds like a fun conversation. I appreciate you, Pete. Man, thank you, sir.
Anytime, Mr. Fowler.